Okay, great. Hi, I want to welcome everyone to the Long Beach Center for Economic Inclusion's webinar series. This is a four-part series, and what we're focused on is the foundation of growth for your business through marketing and sales. And today we have Lori Anding with us from South Bay Social Media, and she's going to be talking about many aspects of really diving into social media. And what she'll do is do a part 1 and part 2. A little bit more about the Long Beach Center for Economic Inclusion, though, is we do have this webinar series along with advisory services for our businesses in Long Beach. So please let us know if there's other ways we can be of support to you. But let's move on now to the beginning of the social media presentation. As you all well know, webinar questions are welcome. So in the Q&A, there's a chat bubble. Just submit your questions in the chat bubble, and we can review them at the end of the session, or if we can address them during the session. Lori's really great about that. She'll be able to do that too. Okay. And now I'm going to turn this over to Lori Anding. I had an opportunity to work with Lori through many aspects of her growing her business. And what I found is when she presented to a cohort of ours for our CEO forum is that she really was able to get businesses to really think more about the long term, the short term, and how to dive in and start somewhere. So I know that she really encouraged our businesses to do that. And so I want her to share that with you today, and also for you to get an opportunity to hear from her and know more about her expertise. So Lori, go ahead and take it away.
So thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the offer to have me speak about social media, because really that is my favorite topic. I started out in translation, and that's a form of communication, I believe. And so moving into social media was kind of a nice transition. So the goal for me here is to just really talk about it in a broad sense, and the power of the reach in terms of global, national reach for social media. So I'm really putting a lot of information out there to get you to think about how, I'd love for you to take notes, because I really think it's a great way for you to hear some ways that people have used the power of social and how that may relate to your business and how you could use it. So that's where we're going to start. And speaking of starting, if you haven't really started, my experience in being a small business owner is most of us are wearing a social media hat, we're wearing an HR hat, we're wearing a sales hat, a marketing hat, we're wearing all these hats. And sometimes we don't really want to wear that hat. And a lot of times we don't want to wear the social media hat because we don't know anything about social media. So I just wanted to talk about the elephant in the room. If you feel reluctant to be on social media or overwhelmed, most people do, because it's a topic that's not, years ago, it wasn't even taught in college or anything. You couldn't get a certificate of social media, and now you can. So most people who started out in social just learned as they went. They learned online, they learned from experts who tried and failed and figured out ways to do it. And so I just wanted to put it out there that it's never too late to get on social. And even if you started on social and you have a presence, but oh my gosh, I haven't posted in a year, it's okay, because we all go through this. Unless we do designate a person to do it, or we hire out. And then we got that consistency, which is really what makes social go viral or do very well, is when you have that consistency. So everyone was a beginner at some point. So always keep that in mind. I can take the next slide. So a few highlights I just wanted to touch on. Just keep in mind, with over 7 billion people in the world, greater than 5 billion people are mobile users. If you're like me, you're out just doing shopping, you're out with friends, you're out at dinner, everybody is on their phone. This is what we see. And so one thing I want to mention is, if your website isn't mobile friendly, that's a number one thing you should do, because everybody is on an iPad or a smartphone. So you really want your devices to be mobile friendly so that they can see and scroll through your website. But there's an opportunity right there. Everybody is on social, so why not be where everybody is? You don't need to be you don't need to be everywhere, but you do need to be where your people are. Some people hire out a social media person, a manager, a marketing company who can handle all the different platforms. But I really like to speak to the small business owner who probably doesn't have a lot of money to allocate to social media. So what can you do? You just focus. You focus where your target audience is, and that you just need to do your back. I think that Lizette and Vivian talked about this in the last webinar. Is you really have to know who your target audience is, and so you just do some homework on that. So once you know who your target market is, then you know where do they like to hang out. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest. A lot of people just scroll along on Pinterest looking for inspiration for clothing, for their homes, all kinds of things. So it's best to be consistent. I mentioned that. So when you do create your accounts, make sure you have the same account name on all your accounts. Make sure your avatar is the same. Like for me, my picture is the same on Twitter as it is on Facebook, so they can recognize, oh yeah, I'm looking for her on this platform. Oh, that's her. I recognize her face. That's really what the reason why you want to do that. So let your passion for your business shine through on social. So many people take social media very seriously and very businesslike and try to be too conformed. And for me, this is where your personality can come out. So when you're doing that homework of who your target audience is, also, who are you? Who are you as a business? Who are you as a personal brand? Who are you as a business brand? Because you can bring some of that out in your social posting and content, because people want to do business with people. They do not want to do business with logos. They do business with logos, but what we find out is the more you have that personal connection, the more engaged they are. Let's see. Don't hesitate to tell your story. And this is really takes some evolving, because a lot of people in the beginning are afraid to say too much, like, oh, that's too personal, or that's just out of my comfort zone. That's fine. But you'll notice as you expand and grow on social media, you find you have more confidence to share a little bit more. And that's good. That's very good, because that's how you connect. Vulnerability equals connection. And feel free to ask people questions on social. I also noticed that a lot of early small business owners, early on platforms, they tend to just sell. They just, oh, look, we have this new product. Oh, look, we have this. And they post something and then they're gone. You need to make sure that if people are making comments, if people are sending direct messages, you need to answer those questions. You need to reply to those comments. That you want them to feel nurtured and happy to be in your community. So there's a lot of ways that you can get that engagement. You can do polls. You can ask them. The first picture here, do you like this better or do you like that better? People love to give their opinion. Love to give their opinion. Also restaurants, if you're a restaurant or in the food industry in some way, people love to go on and see what other people think of. What do they think of the coffee at this coffee house? What do they think of the sandwiches at this deli? So always make sure that you get those reviews, and also review them to make sure you don't have any negative reviews, because you need to handle that as well. For the service industry, highlight how you help with their pain points. What are the things that you do, XYZ, that help your community? Make sure you're talking about that, and make sure you're talking about it often, because you have to realize people are popping in and out on social platforms. They're not seeing, even though you see what you post every day, being repetitive is important because they're not seeing everything. And then if you're a nonprofit or a charitable organization, lead with empathy. That's part of, I have a friend who has a chimpanzee sanctuary, and the reason people follow them because they're so darn cute. So you see that, but also, you know, these poor chimps have been, the reason that they're in their sanctuary is because their mothers were killed in order to get the young one. And then they take it and they try to pretend like it's a pet, and it's awful. So that they constantly remind you that this poor entity was ripped from their mother and they watched their mother die. So, you know, cancer, you talk about all the aspects of cancer, and that's how you get the connection. We can have the next slide, or if anybody has any questions at this point. So what to do? As you can tell just from me starting here, be social on social. I use that hashtag all the time. I use it on Twitter. I use it on Instagram. You see hashtags on the TV for TV shows. They give you a hashtag to use so that you're connected into the community. So they are encouraging you to talk about their show. They're encouraging you to talk about your food. Just really try to have that mindset that you want to have a social interaction. You're not just telling them, I have these products, I have this sale. You also want to engage in, you know, kind of act like, hey, I have these people in my shop. And how do I want them to feel? I want them to feel welcome. I want them to feel like they can ask me any questions about my products. You know, the more hospitality you have on social, the better things go. As I said in the beginning, consistency is key. So if you can't be consistent, find someone who can. And really you can do that by figuring out, if you have several employees, there are certain people who are so perfect for social. Kind of get your feelers out there and see, you know, maybe someone would do really well to spend some time working on your social if you can't afford to hire someone out, or you can't afford to hire someone separate to do that work. You know, you can always find someone. Most young people are very, very adept at social media. I mean, they were born into it. Again, answer everybody's questions, answer comments, look at your DMs. You should be doing that every day so that people aren't hanging. Because a lot of people, when they make a comment or they have a question or they have a customer service problem and they're reaching out to you on social, they expect an answer, you know, usually within 24 to 48 hours. And the longer that question sits there and doesn't get answered, the more they fume and the more they want to give a bad review or even say out loud on social that your company isn't attentive to, you know, matters of customer service, and that's not good. And then another thing I want to talk about is just engaging is fun. You know, you really have to, maybe even have to sit down and go, okay, I'm going to work on my social media, put my feet down, have a cup of tea or coffee or whatever it is that makes you grounded. And hey, I'm going to go through and take 10 to 15 minutes to check in on all my social platforms and make it fun. Answer things with a little humor. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. So you want to have a service mindset. You know, how can I help these people? How can I share my value? Be a giver. Bob Burg is a writer. He wrote a series of books called The Go-Giver. I highly recommend that series. He is amazing on social media. If you tweet him back, he always replies with something. He makes sure that his community feels heard. People want to be heard. So what not to do? So again, when I've seen small businesses start on social platforms, and I'm saying this from experience, when I first started on Twitter and I first started on Instagram with my other business, a translation business, I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew I wanted to be there. So I did try to just sell. And I did just try to promote our company that we can do translation in multiple languages for you. I didn't know how to be social on social. So this is me learning from my own failures and sharing with you how you can do better moving forward. The other thing that a lot of small businesses do that don't really know what they're doing is they send messages to your direct message, send messages directly or private message you saying, you know, hey, follow us on our Facebook page, or you're on Twitter and follow us on Instagram. That you want to talk to the people who are on the platform that they're in right now. So don't try to ask them to go somewhere else. It's really disconcerting to have that happen. And it's just really spammy and salesy.
So Lori, I just want to remind everyone that if you have questions for Lori, put them in the Q&A. I'm also watching the chat too, so you can put the question in the chat. I have a question for you though, Lori, when you're talking about the direct messages. Is it's interesting because I guess you could be direct messaging throughout the day, but do you have a process that you tell people to follow so that they don't feel like they have to be watching their messages all day?
Right. I would say, for a small business, it's important to check in the morning because a lot of people are online overnight and doing things. Check, scrolling through social media platforms, looking at stuff. So you get a lot of questions overnight. So check in the morning to make sure that anything that happened overnight, you can take care of those. And it's not an all day type of thing. You can just pop in and look and see, did anybody DM me? Did anybody private message me? No, there's nothing there. And then by the end of the day, because, we all should have small business boundaries so that we're healthy in our work, right? So, check at the beginning of the work day and at the end of the work day, and then just do it again the next day. That's all I'm suggesting.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So some interesting social facts. I mean, Facebook and Instagram. So Instagram is owned by Facebook. If someone doesn't know that, I'm surprised, but just in case there are people out there. So Facebook has been known to be incredibly sensitive to being able to hone in on their ads. So they are amazing at making ads because you can select demographics, age groups, regions, cities, in order to really funnel down who you want your target market, who you want to see these ads. So what's nice is because they're owned by, Instagram is owned by Facebook, you can do pretty much the same on Instagram. So you can really target. So here's another reason to know your target market, because when you do ads, you really need to know, what's my age group? Who do I want to see this? Because why pay for ads going to an age group that isn't purchasing your product or your service? And it's very, very successful. I've used it quite a bit with my clients, and I would actually say that we do a lot of organic posting, but there's a combination of organic posting and ads that really make social super effective for us. So we use both organic and we use paid ads as well. I think you skipped forward. I had some other things on that last slide. Okay, thanks. And then LinkedIn. LinkedIn is good for anybody who's in the service industry. Again, if you know your target market, you can derive, like, is Facebook my place? Is Instagram my place? Instagram is super photo and video and short video, fun video place to be. So, is my demographic into that kind of thing, or is my product very beautiful? Pinterest, Instagram, that's where you want to be. LinkedIn, if you're a service industry, nonprofit, in the educational realm, LinkedIn is where you want to be. And they've really beefed up things where it's really easy to be more social on LinkedIn, do live events on LinkedIn and get feedback from your people through the comments section. LinkedIn is really good for that. Pinterest, again, very, very visual, and where people really go for inspiration. There are people who go on there to purchase things. They see something they really like and bam, they can purchase it. And then back to Yelp, we kind of talked about that before. I think it's important if you're in any kind of food industry that you should watch your Yelp reviews. So I can take the next slide. Okay, so I really want to spend some time on video because video is where it's at. In the last few years, nothing has impacted social media as much as video. And every platform has video. Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, of course. Twitter has a video element that you can now use, as well as Snapchat and TikTok for the younger group, and not just the younger group. It's really for people who think outside the box. If you can figure out how to engage with your community through fun videos that are TikTok or Snapchat oriented, go for it. I mean, people use these ways in order to really increase their brand awareness. And then we call this edutainment, where you're not only educating, but you're also entertaining. Those are like the best videos because people you get them into that mode of wanting to learn. And so those kinds of videos do very, very well. And they have a lasting effect. People share them as well. I mean, that's another thing that you want to kind of say, would someone share this? And that's the kind of video you would want to do. No matter which social platforms you jump on, you see video more than ever. Instagram recently released Reels, which are very similar to TikTok video and Snapchat videos. Also the thing with these Reels is that Instagram focuses on these. So they push real content, REEL, to you more than anything else. So if you're making Reels, those get a bump up into the algorithm that's on Instagram. It also goes into the Explorer part where people get on the app and they're not really looking at what the people they're following are doing, but they're looking at, hey, I just want to get on here and see some good content. So they're exploring, and they'll put those Reels up there. And if your Reel is doing very well, it gets pushed up even more. And that's how you kind of get this viral effect where you might notice your Reel's doing well, and then it just keeps doing better and then even better because it's being viewed, it's being commented on, and then that kind of keeps pushing it up into the algorithm. So video, of course, captures people's attention longer than any other medium. Sometimes people watch these things over and over if they're that interesting or that funny. So keep that in mind as you create these kind of things. And during 2020, people were making video more than ever. We were home. What are we going to do? Let's make a video. Let's make a video. And then they were sharing all of this, and really video just exploded. So video is a vehicle for people to see behind the brand. So if you think about it in that instant, this is any kind of behind the scenes. People love to see. They see your storefront, they see your logo, they see your product, but what really happens behind? And especially people who want to buy from you who may not be in your area. Like, I want to know how this is made. And they find it very, very interesting. And those are the kind of people that you really want in your community, because these people ask questions like, what is that made of? How long did it take you to do that? And this is all good for social media, because the more comments you get, the more engagement you get, the more your content is showed to your viewers. So I also added at the bottom, Ignite Video Challenge. So I took this challenge a couple years ago, and I just want to let you know, it's a 4-week challenge. It's only $25. It's so worth it. Number one, if you think that if you are a very good face for your business, then you should be putting your face into video and getting your face out there, and with that recognition and that brand recognition. Oh, so, Lori is the owner of this business. I see that. I see her every 3 days telling me how best to use Instagram, how best to use Twitter, what are the key things to do on Pinterest. So you really want to do that. So this is a great, easy, inexpensive. She sets you up to do it 5 days a week. You have weekends off, so you have the weekends to kind of make up for it. That's an affiliate link of my friend Christy, who did share it with me, and that's how I joined. But it really helps. I am a total introvert, so it helped me get in front of the camera, because I would much rather be on the other side of the camera. And she gives you these prompts that are super easy for you to go, oh, okay, I'll talk about my favorite book, or I'll talk my favorite thing I have for lunch or something. And she gets you to make these videos super short, and you take them in one take. So you can't be a perfectionist and go, oh, I didn't do it. Oh, I need to add that. Oh, I didn't say that. Oh, I messed up here. Because what you're doing with video is you're connecting. And the more you make mistakes or you fumble your words, they realize you're just as human as they are. And there you have that connection. So it's a really great program. I highly recommend it. And I just wanted to throw it out there for you. And not only you, but again, I'm going to go back to anybody in your company who maybe, I had a client who was affiliated with a business distributor who found that one of their employees just really liked being goofy in front of the camera and doing things. So they got her to be the person who was like the face of the business. And she was fantastic because she just, her personality just came out on video, and she got people to ask questions about what she was doing, why she was doing it. And it really was very effective for that brand. They got a lot more engagement on their social media platform. This happened to be Instagram, but they also got people coming into the business because she got them more educated on what they sell. It was very, very effective.
So Lori, I have a question for you. So does that mean during the 4 weeks, 5 days a week, you're doing a video clip?
Yeah, so it's really 17 videos, I believe.
Yeah.
It's not that bad. It's not, because they're just like 2-minute videos talking about, I can remember one of the prompts was, what was one of your favorite things growing up? So it gets you to kind of think and like, oh, I think my video was on climbing trees. I loved climbing trees. And, and minute and a half, I talked about how I loved being up in the tree and stuff. So it's super easy. It's not overwhelming.
Okay, great. Thanks for that link. Okay, let's move on.
So I do want to talk a little bit about social audio, and Clubhouse really came in with a bang during 2020. It was a time where speakers were having all their gigs canceled, so they had nowhere to speak. This is where they make the majority of their money, is speaking at events, right? So what are they going to do? It was very, very good for these people who could. So Clubhouse is an app. It's an invite-only app. It might have changed since I made this video, but what they do is you say you're going to speak about a certain topic at this hour, and you pop on and start talking. It's all audio. I love it because I'm not the one who wants to be in front of video. So I don't mind talking. I just don't want to be seen. So if I could do this without being seen, I guess I think I turned it off so I didn't have to see myself. But anyways, so it's really, really good. And authors go on there and talk about their books. Elon Musk has gone on there. I mean, there's musicians who have gone on there. And they talk. And so you have like a handful of people who are on stage, they call it, and you can invite a listener that's down below. Your avatar pops up down below and it says you're a listener, and it shows that you're in the room. And then they can ask you to come up on stage and you can speak. And there are some people who are super generous and ask you to come up on stage and talk. And it's really fun. And also you learn a lot. So Clubhouse is definitely an interesting app to get on there, and it could give you some more brand awareness, and you learn about other people who are doing the same things you are. You can have clubs where you're talking about all small business or insurance or restaurants, you name it, they have a club for it. So Twitter Spaces started after that, and they're only on a mobile app as well. But the good thing about Twitter is that you have a Twitter following. Most people already are on Twitter, and then you can go into Twitter Spaces. It's set up the same way, where you have a stage and you speak and you have listeners down below. But you can tell your followers, you can send out a tweet saying, I'm speaking on stage at 4:00 about social media, and then they can come in and listen, and then they can come up on stage and ask questions. It's a really effective way to, again, I want to give you like all these options that may be a good way for you. If you're really good at talking, that's a great place to educate people about your product. Yeah, so I think that's everything on that. So I wanted to talk a little bit about vulnerability and connection. And Stacey Heal did a very good job on a TEDx talk that she did in her home country in the UK. So she had a husband that was diagnosed with cancer, super duper ill, caught them off guard. And she was saying, you know, it takes a village to raise a child. We've all heard that. And she coined saying, you know, it takes a city to go through cancer. And so she constructed her city on social media. And she found by being vulnerable and talking about that, the fact that her husband was dying and how hard it was being a mom and raising kids and having to work and breaking down and crying, so many people could relate to what she was going through. So she ended up finding someone who said that there was and that's a misprint there on my part. They needed 100,000 pounds for a treatment that was supposed to help him. And so she did a GoFundMe, and the whole GoFundMe was presented through social media. And within 48 hours, she got more than 100,000 pounds donated for her GoFundMe. And then she's just taken social media, you know, to even more. I mean, she uses it all the time. It is just a really interesting way to show you by being vulnerable about things that are super duper hard, because we all have these businesses that we're running, but there's so much more going on behind the scenes that sometimes that connection through what you're going on behind the scenes is what connects me. Like, I want to do business with this person because, gosh, I mean, she's just honest and genuine, you know, that kind of thing. So that was just an example for that. So I wanted to give you a case study about Twitter, which is one of my favorite social media platforms. Probably because it's so global. I mean, I have a connection. I have over 20,000 people I follow on 2 different accounts, let alone client accounts that are all over the world. And you find that we're all human. You know, we all have the same wants, needs, desire, maybe not the same, but similar. And you can find people who are so similar to you and similar in business as well on the app. So Winnie Sun is a TV personality that is known as the Wealth Whisperer. She's a financial planner in the Southern California region. But the reason I bring her up is because she utilized her platform, her social media platform on Twitter, to create a community around her chat. So there's these, if you don't know, there are Twitter chats all the time. 24/7 there are chats, because of course it's global, and some people have chats in the UK when we're sleeping, and we're having chats when the other parts of the country are sleeping. So her chat is Wednesdays Pacific time at 11 a.m. And what she does is she creates a total community around it. Now she's talking about money, but money, there's so much more to money. I mean, she wants to create community around this. So she talks a lot about community. She talks about social media. She really educates her whole community about everything that has to do with money. And I think that she really loves her chats. So it's you can kind of tell when you're around someone who's passionate about things like this. And then what she does is because she's so likable and so wonderful, she shares information about, you know, maybe she's going to be on CNBC for some show. We share that because she's such a generous heart. So it's a really good way. Those are her stats up there. 500,000 accounts, I think impressions, 25, don't have put my glasses on, 25 billion, I can't even read my own stuff. She has 340,000 followers. You know, it's just, she generates a huge firestorm of tweets within that hour. And when that happens, if you're tweeting using that hashtag, what happens is that's how you're in like a hashtag room where you see she will generate questions and then everybody answers. So you get to participate, and then people get to comment on your, you know, maybe you say, saving money was the best thing that I did because I was able to take my family on a vacation. And oh, where did you go on your vacation? Oh, my favorite place to go on vacation is so and so. So you can totally create a dialogue within that chat. And then you go, I really like this person, I'm going to follow them. So what happens is this community that's talking about finance and money and other things, that's her community. And then you've got my community who's talking about it. And I have, 5,000, 6,000 people who see me tweeting about this, and then somebody else. So if you notice that community is just growing, and they're like, oh, I want to join this chat. When is the Winnie Sun chat? So Twitter chats are a great way to engage on topics that are just interesting or relevant to you personally. I think that's a really good way for your personal brand to get out there. But also, you can talk about your own products and your expertise as well. And there's chats about everything. Feel free to contact me. I give you my information later on in this presentation. But there's leadership chats, there's book chats, there's nostalgic chats, there's so many chats. It's very, very fun. You could chat almost too much. I can take the next slide. Okay, so a powerhouse on social media is Gary Vaynerchuk. He is head of VaynerMedia, and he talks about, so I have his book here called Crushing It. It was a sequel to a book called Crush It. He wrote this in 2018, and he shares in this version of the book. In this one, he talks about how he started on YouTube. And he had a family business that his dad started, and it was called the Wine Library. So he created Wine Library TV, and he gave reviews on wine, and he was very serious. And if you look at him from the first episode, he was, again, this goes back to what I was saying in the beginning of all of this, is that you can become way too regimented and businesslike, and okay, you just talk about, oh, the nose is this, and I smell cherries, and a little bit of, oh, this has some tannins, and it smells like chocolate. But then he develops, after much the time, I mean, he made over 1,000 videos for Wine Library, and you can see him grow. You can see him evolve. His personal brand really grew in a different way from how he thought it was going to grow when he started. And so his philosophy, which is something that I think we should all take to heart, is don't wait and say, oh, I can't get on that video until I learn how to do video, or I've got to do this, this, and this before I can do that. Just do it. His philosophy is get out there and just start telling your story. So it's more of like this book being is unfolding online, and it is truly amazing. So he grew that Wine Library, his business, his family business that was at 3 million when he started, to 60 million in 5 years, and that is through YouTube and social media. At the same time, he worked on his personal brand, which, if you look at that, the stats, so his Wine Library views 6 million views to date. On the YouTube channel for his personal brand, 274 million views. This guy is so popular across so many different kinds of people. He really, really motivates younger people who, like a lot of those people who maybe haven't gone to college, or they did go to college and they can't get a job, and they're trying to pay off their debt, and they just really need to hustle and make some money. He really gets them thinking on how to do that. He gives them ideas on how to, have 3 different jobs to keep focus on your goals. And he gives you all these tips. He's phenomenal. I would say this is about YouTube, but let me tell you, he's phenomenal on every platform. And the reason for that is he hired a very, very excellent team to do, and who's very good at Instagram, who's very good at video, so he has all of that. I mean, if there's anybody I know that has done phenomenally on all platforms, it's Gary Vee. He has a team of creators that are creating content all the time. So he's written several books. I talked to you about Crushing It. So Crushing It is, he talks about the success principles that people leveraged for crushing. So look how he did that. He had a book where he talked about people who were on YouTube, Instagram. He talks about a kid and his son who they would just broke things open on YouTube. And then they would look inside. This kid was probably 5 or 6, I think, when they first started doing it. And the kid would be like in awe, like what was inside a golf ball? No one knew. And he created a whole business on breaking things open. And that was talked about in Crush It. And then he followed up on Crushing It, showing how these people are crushing it on social media. So a very good book if you need something to read. All right, so REI. So we're going to talk a little bit about Facebook here. There's a lot of very good companies that are doing well on Facebook. Essence Magazine, for instance, if you think about it, publications, newspapers and print publications are having a hard time because people are just not purchasing those kind of things. They're looking for this stuff online. Essence does a really good job on Facebook. They have a community manager who answers questions, gets people engaged on the things that they post. So let's go to REI. So outdoor sporting goods. I know you guys talked about Patagonia. Great companies to be on: Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook. They have over 2 million followers on Facebook alone, let alone several other sites. But the reason I brought this up is so they have a community manager that manages responses, and they respond. People talk about, I went hiking and I did this, and someone responds to you. There's nothing more validating than saying, I hear you, I see you, and I have a comment on a big brand like REI. That makes you want to come back. You go to another brand and they don't hear you, they don't see you. I'd go back to REI in a second. So I put up the stats there on the side. That is a hashtag hub on Instagram, actually, but that gave me the visual I wanted to show you. So the hashtag is opt outside, and they used this in 2015. They decided they were going to get, I don't know if you don't know the story, but I think a lot of people do know the story. So for Black Friday, when we were in the mode years and years ago, well, there's still a lot of people who are in the shopping mode. Black Friday, you go out and you try and get the best deals. Let's go shopping. So what they did is they gave their employees the day off, and they said, we want you to go outside. So we want you to go hiking. We want you to take your dogs. We want you to ask your friends and go hiking. Perfect for this brand, correct? So, and use the hashtag opt outside. They shared 1.5 million people shared photos with that tag. That is amazing. And it grows every year. So we're on our 6th year this year. They have brought in other brands that kind of mesh with their brand. So another thing to talk about, I'd say at the bottom here about collaborating. REI, Subaru is a great fit for REI. Subaru is a perfect vehicle to go drive up into the mountains. So that's another thing you want to think about is what brands would collaborate with me, because it's just a win-win, just like the Twitter chats when I'm telling you grow those communities. You have a Subaru community, you have a REI community. There's some overlap there, right? But now you've got even more because you're both talking about it. So it's a win-win. Really amazing ways to do campaigns is to collaborate with other brands. So Michelle from Hootsuite wrote this quote, and it just really resonated with me, so I had to share it. So social media campaigns are the rocket fuel of your marketing efforts, a concentrated burst of energy that pays off in a major boost to your brand reputation, awareness, and sales. I 1000% agree with that. I have a company that manufactures tiles. They had a yard with a bunch of tiles that have just been sitting there for lots of years. What are we going to do? Maybe we could do a garage sale. Like, okay, that's not, no one's ever done this. Tile companies don't have garage sales. People have garage sales. This company is very rustic, very hardworking. Garage sale fit with their brand. And so they said, we're going to do these garage, super successful. I think they have done close to 10 garage sales, not just at their facility, but at dealer facilities, and probably have made over $100,000 in selling seconds, in selling tiles that have been sitting around for a while. They're still even dirty, but there are people who can't afford this tile. So if I can get it at a third of the price, then I'm going to go to that garage sale and see if I can, tile my bathroom or tile my front porch with my favorite brand of tile. It's been super effective. So those campaigns have really, I absolutely agree with the rocket fuel. And there's my contact information. I feel free to contact me if you're on Twitter, contact me on Twitter. If you're on Instagram, contact me there, comment on a post, send me a DM, Facebook as well. There's just I think there's an A missing on the Facebook link there, but yeah, I'm happy to answer questions once, if people who have seen are looking at this after the fact, and this generates any kind of questions, I'm happy to answer those questions.
Okay, well, great. Lori, I want to thank you so much for presenting this part one of the social media, the power of social media. You always have such great energy and so much information to share with us. I actually get excited about wanting to do something on social media.
I love that.
So wanting to do something on social media. So, so they're all great tips.
Success.
People can take a look at this again, because this presentation and the slides will be posted on our website, so they can go to all the links. And then also, thanks for sharing your information so that people can get in touch with you and hear more about some of the advice that you can give them through the work that you've done in social media. And we will look forward to our next session, which will be next Wednesday again, and it will be the power of social media too. And you want to give them any tips on what's coming up?
Yeah, so I'm going to so this was really, I feel like, a broad sense of trying to get you to think about, okay, well, maybe my brand fits best in these two niches, maybe Facebook and LinkedIn are my thing, or maybe it's Instagram and Pinterest. So next week, I'm going to talk about focusing, because if there's anything that's difficult in social media, it's focus. So we're going to talk about focusing, some tools that I suggest and use that help with focusing, and also just help getting content out on a regular basis, and then how to really grow your community. I'm going to talk a lot about community as well, because that is probably my forte, not only social media, but creating community around your brand. That's the way you want to go. So okay. I look forward to seeing people next week.
Yeah, we'll look forward to our next session. And then meanwhile, if anyone has any questions about the Long Beach Center for Economic Inclusion, you have our email address there. And also go and check out our website, because you can find out more information about the work that we do in the community. Okay, thanks a lot, everybody. Have a good week, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you. Bye.